Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I say good afternoon. Good afternoon to those of you joining us from the UK. Good morning to those of you joining us from the US and Canada. Allow me firstly to introduce myself. My name's Alex Loizou. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at Mundy Cruising and Mundy Adventures. And I'm joined today by Donatella, the Regional and Strategic Account Manager for the UK. And today you'll also hear from Conrad Combrink, who's the Senior Vice President for Expeditions, Tour Operating and Destination Management from Silversea Cruises. So welcome. For those of you who are a little unfamiliar with Mundy Cruising and Mundy Adventures, let me tell you a little bit about us. We have been established, actually, we celebrated our 50th anniversary in October last year. Not quite the 50th anniversary celebrations that we expected to be having in October last year, but we turned 50 then. And through our company history for all that time, we've been helping create amazing holidays at sea by advising our guests on exactly which cruise line, ship, best suits their individual preferences. We're a small family-run business, and we've got a dedicated team of travel advisors who look after guests through every aspect of their booking, and that means from the first call until the day of your departure, and also following up on your return, just to make sure that everything on your trip has been absolutely perfect. And what we do is we make all the arrangements, including your cruise, but also we go beyond that. We help make all arrangements before and after your cruise. That means flights, any hotel stays that may be required, any sightseeing, VIP fast track where available, airport lounges, you name it, anything that we can do to make your travel more enjoyable, more relaxing, more fun. That's what we will aim to do. And our focus has always been on trips that deliver the absolute highest quality of experience. And that's naturally led us to focus on luxury small ship experiences. In that, we are the experts in the field. Mundy Cruising focuses on luxury small ships. And then in 2012, we launched Mundy Adventures, which was focused on bringing our knowledge of tailor-making extraordinary small ship experiences to then the relatively small expedition cruise sector, of which Silversea has been an absolute pioneer. Since then, we've seen the sector grow. We've seen new operators enter the market. We've seen new ships launch. We've seen the introduction of some fantastic new itineraries and destinations. And actually, myself and my team have been lucky enough to travel to some just incredible places on several different cruise lines. And for all of us that have traveled, Silversea has been a firm favourite. So personally, over Christmas and New Year 2015 and 16, I was privileged enough to travel with Silversea on Silver Explorer to Antarctica and the Falkland Isles. By far the most extraordinary trip I've ever done. And actually, when I was looking back in preparation for this presentation, I thought, God, was it that long ago? 2015 now feels like a lifetime ago. But actually, the memories that I have from that trip are still very fresh. It was just so amazing. So both myself and Donatella will be available to answer questions after this presentation. We'll, after we've heard from Conrad, and to explain a little bit more about how to ask those questions, and also to give a little bit more information on Silversea, let me hand over to Donatella.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you for a great introduction to Mundy Cruising and Mundy Adventures, and certainly your fabulous team that's there with you. It gives me great pleasure today to be co-hosting this event, about all things Antarctica. A very warm welcome to all of you to the Silversea family. For those of you who are familiar with Silversea or not familiar with Silversea, we are an ultra-luxury award-winning cruise line. We are all suite accommodation, butler service, and absolutely everything is included. Right from the moment that you board the ship, you find that intimacy, that luxury, the boutique style. But today we are here to talk about all things Antarctica. And like Alex mentioned, we were the pioneers back in 2008. We were the first ultra-luxury cruise line to go to Antarctica. But I don't want to keep you any longer because we're here to hear from the very expert, Conrad Combrink. Some of you may know already. He's absolutely the expert in his field, and he's going to take us on a whirlwind of Antarctica. So much to talk about, is so much to see as well. Just a couple of housekeeping rules from me today. So we have a chat box there where you can leave your questions or comments, and Alex and I will be prepared to answer them at the end of the presentation. And if we can't get through them all, we will make sure that we will follow up after the event. The second housekeeping rule, if you are watching us today from an iPad, you may be prompted at the start of the presentation to unmute yourself. So please touch your screen just to unmute it so you can actually hear the video properly. Not much left for me to say now, because I know we're all raring to go on a tour of Antarctica. So please sit back and relax and enjoy. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this update that we want to share with you on our Silversea Expeditions Antarctica program. My name is Conrad Combrink, and I am the Senior Vice President of Expedition Cruising at Silversea. I also look after all tour operating, shore excursions, fleet-wide, and basically the entire destination management at Silversea Cruises, and with a very strong focus on Silversea Expeditions. I've had the privilege about 15 years ago to start Silversea Expeditions, and it really has been an incredible journey from the moment that we decided to enter this wonderful, wonderful destination product to what we have today, with a variety of ships all around the world. It really is a spectacular opportunity for Silversea to explore the world. The team and I work from our Miami office, and we really are a group of very passionate individuals that put together these expedition and destination programs. And I think that is one of the key differences that we have at Silversea is the amount of experience that we have, not only in actually delivering the programs as such. We now have just over 12 years experience as Silversea Expeditions, but the team that together with myself plan and execute these incredible expeditions around the world. We all have decades of experience. We've worked on ships, and our experience really isn't theoretical. It's not just that we sit behind a desk and plan these in theory. We spend a lot of time in the field. Of course, pre-COVID, we were able to travel, and we will continue to travel scouting for new destinations. And we continue to push the boundaries, whether it is a tropical expedition, but also specifically for our polar adventures. We really continue to strive for that differentiation, that product that is different, that expedition experience that's deeper. We also do that, of course, from a luxury platform. We were the first ultra luxury cruise company to enter the expedition market. Now, we did not invent expedition cruising by no means. Expedition cruising has been around since the late 1960s, when the first passenger ship went down to Antarctica. But we really were the first expedition or cruise company to enter the ultra luxury expedition segment. Before Silversea started with expeditions, it really was a question of boiled potatoes and bunk beds and toilets down the passageway. And we really pioneered the idea of ultra luxury expedition. And why not? The notion that an expedition should mean hardship really was only true in the days of Shackleton and Armitage and Scott when they traveled to these regions. We spend a lot of time developing our expedition team. Our expedition staff are not just staff that escort a tour program. These are passionate, highly skilled, highly trained individuals that are handpicked to really enhance our guests' destination experience. It's an educational program that we deliver, and we can only do so with a world-class expedition team that has not only experience, but an incredible passion for both expedition travel, but also the destination that they deliver. And as I previously mentioned, we continue to strive towards innovation and delivering innovative products around the globe. We do so with small, intimate ships. Our Silver Explorer is the smallest in our international fleet of expedition ships. She carries 144 guests. In the polar regions, it's actually reduced to 140 guests, with a large expedition team of a ratio of 1 to 10, with 1 to 10 in terms of the expedition staff and the guests. And we run with 14 expedition staff on that ship. Silver Cloud and Silver Wind, these two ships started the Silversea story, and they were built as the first true ultra-luxury ships ever. And the guest-to-space ratio on these ships are incredible. And these are wonderful expedition ships. Our ships are small. They are able to get our guests up close and personal with the destination. You know, it's only with these smaller vessels, not necessarily in terms of the passenger count, but in terms of their size, the maneuverability that allows us to get very, very close and really deeper into the region. We have got an incredibly skilled crew on board, and it's a crew that can take the hardware that we have and really, you know, put us into the ice, bring us closer to the destinations. You can see on this slide here, our Silver Cloud and Silver Explorer, just how very close we are to the landing site in Antarctica. It literally takes us only a few minutes to get the Zodiacs in the water, to open our side gates and start disembarking our guests. It's a really smooth and a really fast operation. And again, it's achieved with the maneuverability of the ship, the incredible skill of our crew, our captains, and of course, the size of the vessels. You know, here again, you can see Silver Cloud, which is a sister ship to the Silver Wind of Peterman Island in Antarctica, the majestic scenery in the background, and again, just so close to the destination. We use our ships because they are so maneuverable. We often use our ships to sightsee, and we'll talk a little bit later about the activities that we are actually able to do in Antarctica. Our ships are not formal at all. You know, our expedition ships have got a very laid-back country club feel to it. It's not over-the-top luxury. Silversea do not believe in over-the-top opulent luxury. It is a very, very comfortable environment with excellent cuisine, excellent beverages that are all-inclusive, and excellent service on board. We try to create an atmosphere, and I think we are very successful at creating an atmosphere on the ship that allows like-minded travelers to travel in comfort in a beautiful environment on board to incredible destinations around the world. It is very, very comfortable, but it's, you know, for the lack of a better term, it's not stuffy on board this ship at all. It is comfortable. It is, you know, an environment where people get along and they enjoy each other's company and they share the incredible experiences. The ships are set up in such a way that we make use of the deck space in an incredible way to allow guests to yet again get closer to the destination. Our captains are very, very skilled. You know, we operate within the regulatory frameworks in Antarctica. We absolutely support environmentally conscious and sustainable tourism in Antarctica. But, you know, we do have these incredible experiences. Here you can see our Silver Cloud just drifting in the Gerlach Strait and two humpback whales coming straight up to the ship. What a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And our guests standing on the bow of the ship and just looking down and seeing this wonderful, wonderful wildlife. And our captains expertly maneuvering the ship not to disturb the wildlife at all. All this from a very, very comfortable, beautifully appointed ship. Here you can see the suite on Silver Cloud, the dining, beautiful dining opportunities. Again, all inclusive, all the drinks, all the meals served by an incredibly award-winning team of our hotel staff. The Silver Wind, the second ship ever built for Silversea Cruises, will join her sister, the Silver Cloud, later this year. She will undergo an intensive refurbishment, both in terms of interior, but also structurally. She'll be turned into an expedition ship, and she will join our fleet in late 2021 during our Antarctica season. And we are very excited to deliver with Silver Cloud, Silver Wind, and Silver Explorer a variety of Antarctica experiences. We always try to deliver different opportunities for our guests and to deliver choices. Luxury is, after all, about choice. And we like to offer a wide variety of programs for our guests to select from. I think one of the highlights is definitely our long South Georgia and Falklands itinerary. These itineraries go to the Falkland Islands for a few days, then over to South Georgia, which is the Serengeti of the South Atlantic. The wildlife is just absolutely astounding, and the sheer numbers are overwhelming before we head down to Antarctica, Elephant Island and the Antarctic Sound, the Antarctic Peninsula, the South Shetland Islands, and head back to the South American continent. The mainstay of our Antarctica program is the Antarctica Peninsula, where we travel from the South American continent down to Antarctica straight away, 2 days in the Drake Passage, 5.5 days weather depending in Antarctica, and then back up north. And that really gives you a very, very good impression of Antarctica, the tip of Antarctica, really the Antarctic Peninsula, and it allows you to really get a very good understanding of the Antarctic experience. We do offer a longer Antarctica experience, one where we go beyond what we normally would go to. In fact, it's quite interesting. Antarctica and the Arctic are really very, very different environments, geographically speaking, of course. And the Arctic, everything that we do in the Arctic is above the Arctic Circle, above 66 degrees. In fact, if you look at Norway, you look at Greenland, you look at Iceland, that Arctic Circle is right there, just north of the coast of Iceland. But Norway and Greenland, the majority of these countries are above the Arctic Circle. Whereas, everything we do there in Svalbard is above the Arctic Circle. In fact, there we go as close to 80 degrees, 81, 82, sometimes as far as 85 degrees north, because of what the Arctic really is. In Antarctica, it's different. In Antarctica, we hardly ever get below 66 degrees. It is just because, the Antarctica is a continent surrounded by water, and, the conditions, the ice conditions are different, the weather conditions are different, and the distance that we have to travel. So we generally concentrate our efforts on the Antarctic Peninsula, and therefore we don't go down further than 66 degrees often. However, once a year, when the ice conditions allow, at the middle of January, end of January, we do offer voyages that we venture a little bit further south. And we have got an epic voyage that is 20 days of in-depth exploration, venturing beyond, venturing to areas that most tourists that go to, or most travelers that go to Antarctica, never actually get to experience. Most expedition teams and captains don't even get to experience these areas. It's rich in history, it's incredible scenery and wildlife, and we really do push the boundaries and go as far south as we possibly can with the time and the weather conditions that will allow. This is something that we will do once a year, every year in January, towards the end of January, and it really is an incredible experience for those of you that are interested in a much deeper and longer white continent exploration. On the other hand, for those guests that don't have so much time, but that want to experience Antarctica, we have developed the Antarctica Bridge program. And this allows our guests to travel down to Punta Arenas in Chile, and then from there, hop on an aircraft and fly down on a privately chartered aircraft to Antarctica, to a place called King George Island, and then from there, travel on our beautiful Silver Explorer for 6 full days exploring Antarctica. Now, of course, this means that you don't go over the Drake Passage by ship, but that you fly across. Now, I have to say that I've been to Antarctica 76 times. Incredibly fortunate in my career that I've done that. 75 times I've done that on a ship. That means that I have done the Drake Passage at least 150 times. Now, the experience to get on a plane and fly across the Drake Passage and be in Antarctica 1 hour, 45 minutes later was incredible. I have to say, the excitement, the energy that you feel on the plane, and then just this incredible sensation that you have taking off from Punta Arenas and then coming in and seeing Antarctica from the air and then landing on this very short gravel runway is really quite spectacular. We operate with this beautiful four-engined BAE 146 aircraft. This aircraft takes 105 passengers on a regular flight. We have entered into an agreement with the charter company. We reduced that down to 72 seats. Actually, we'll only take 70 people per flight, but we have 72 seats on the aircraft. This will allow us to increase the seat pitch. In fact, we will have a very generous 37-inch pitch, which is phenomenal for a small aircraft like this. We will offer a specially curated menu. We've worked together with our hotel operations team, with local providers, and we will offer a regionally inspired business class like meal. And that's the first time ever that will be happening on an Antarctica flight. It really is very, very exciting. It will be escorted by a Silversea expeditions team. We will station an expedition team in Punta Arenas that will escort our guests down to Antarctica. And, this is the airport. You'll get off the plane. You can either choose to walk down to the landing site or take a vehicle that we have got specially positioned there down to the landing site, and then a Zodiac trip to Silver Explorer. It really is a phenomenal experience. 6 days in Antarctica, and then you fly back to the continent and fly home. And that really is for guests that possibly want to avoid the Drake Passage, but also for our guests that want to experience Antarctica but does not have a long 2-week window to experience that fully. I often get asked, what is special about Antarctica? And I think what stands out for me first and foremost is the wildlife. The wildlife is absolutely everywhere, and the relationship that we as travelers have with the wildlife at this incredible destination is fascinating. It is truly a part of the world where you see the wildlife in their natural environment. That is not a reserve. It's not a zoo. It's not a national park. There are no fences around. There are no distinct borders in the sense that you would find in a national park, like in the Serengeti, or in a private reserve in South Africa or Botswana. This is truly like being in a National Geographic film. This is truly being out in the wild. It is an incredible experience where you and nature coexist with absolutely the one not influencing the other. The wildlife, whether it's in the Falklands, whether it is in South Georgia, whether it is in Antarctica, is absolutely mesmerizing. It is so incredibly abundant that it takes your breath away. Arriving on a beach in South Georgia by Zodiac, so far from civilization, and you arrive on this beach and there is literally 500,000 king penguins on this beach. I'm not kidding when I say that you hear them, you definitely smell them, and then you see them. It is a phenomenal experience, something that it is impossible to actually talk about in a way that is meaningful. It's only when you really experience it for yourself that you understand the magnitude of the experience, that you really fully understand what is it like to be truly in a remote location in the wild and interacting with wildlife that is not afraid of you, wildlife that is not influenced by you being there. And wildlife that we don't control. It is just phenomenal to be able to stand on a beach and watch elephant seal bulls, having a fight. These are things that we normally think of only in terms of something you see on TV, on television, or in a documentary on film. This is an opportunity to really live that without having an impact. And, that's the beauty of Antarctic tourism. It is such an amazing experience that you cannot, as I said before, you absolutely cannot imagine it until you are really there experiencing it. And trust me, you'll be taking a huge amount of photos. In fact, there is a point where I think every single, even the most keen photographer, just want to put down that camera and just enjoy where you are. In fact, when I lead expeditions, I always encourage that for people just to sit down and take that moment and reflect about what it is you are experiencing, where you are, and how incredibly fortunate we are that we still have places like this on our planet in a world that is increasingly small, in a world that is changing so rapidly, that there are parts of our planet that is still so beautifully untouched and unspoiled, and that we have the opportunity to explore this. The scenery in Antarctica is one of the things that always stick out for me whenever I travel to Antarctica, and no trip is ever the same. 76 times, and not a single one of the trips felt repetitive to me. So, I encourage you, if you've been to Antarctica, go again and go again, and go 76 or 100 or 150 times, because honestly, it will never get boring. It is just so incredibly beautiful. And every single day, every single hour, it changes. You always hope for blue skies and calm weather. I actually like it when it's a bit gray skies, and the atmosphere is so beautiful. It really makes you feel that you are somewhere wild and remote. And if we get a bit of bad weather once or twice, I think that is part of the experience. The tabular icebergs that we get to cruise past in the Antarctic Sound with our ships, it's just out of this world. What you see here is an iceberg that is broken off this ice shelf, and they float through an area called the Antarctic Sound, and we very, very often get to go through this with our ships, and you get to see it when we cruise past these tabular icebergs with our ship, using our ship basically as a zodiac. And what's phenomenal about this amount of fresh water is that what you see on the slide, like any other iceberg, is this is only 1/10 of the size of this iceberg. I mean, the rest of it is underwater, and the sheer size of it is just so impressive. But I think that is what impresses me of Antarctica, is the size of it. Every single time I'm always reminded of how big it is. And again, it's very hard to explain the bigness of Antarctica, and it's got to do with the remoteness, I think, and the idea that you are in this area that it's inhospitable. It's a wild, remote, dangerous place. You have to think about it, that nothing really has changed in Antarctica since Shackleton and Scott and Amundsen explored it. We tend to think of Antarctica and historic exploration in black and white photos and black and white film, but what we see in black and white photos and film is what we see when we get there. It's the same environment. What has changed is that now you can sit in the observation lounge of Silver Cloud, or stand on the bow and have a hot chocolate and have expedition staff interpret, and then go back inside and have a butler waiting for you with a hot meal, on a comfortable turn down menu and a pillow menu, and all these incredible things and beautiful food. That's what's changed. It's you still need a team of incredibly skilled captains and expedition staff to take you there safely and bring you back safely, and that is what we pay a lot of attention to, of course, with the onboard additions. And make no mistake, the explorers in the past didn't have a bad life. They used to set off on these expeditions, and in fact, their galleys initially anyway was stocked with some pretty decent food and food product. It's when they got themselves into trouble, they often ran out of these wonderful products, and they ended up eating seals and penguins. And we hope and trust that we won't do that on our expeditions. But as I said, we use our ships. You often will find yourself when you are down there. It's difficult to pull yourself away to close your blinds in the evening, because you just want to see the scenery. Often when you're out in Antarctica late at night on deck, you'll see guests wandering around, and just enjoying this incredible scenery. It's one of these destinations where, in fact, it does not take a lot of physical strength to enjoy it. It's actually quite an easy destination to enjoy. You can enjoy Antarctica by going to Antarctica and never get off the ship. It would be a real shame, but you can enjoy the incredible beauty of Antarctica from the ship, because we're so up close and personal with the destination that if you decide not to get off the ship on one specific day, it's not going to mean the end of your holiday, because you can experience it. And in fact, often we do that with the ship, cruise through a narrow passage, around an iceberg, whale watching with our ship, because that is part of the beauty of Antarctic expedition. We spend a lot of time on our Zodiacs. We've got a very large fleet of Zodiacs on all our ships, allowing us to take our guests out on these experiences multiple times a day. We offer, where possible, we offer hikes. And I don't want you to think of it as a hike and long distance hikes. Maybe a couple of times in South Georgia or in the Falkland Islands we can, but in Antarctica it's very concentrated. The areas geographically that we are allowed to go ashore is relatively small. It can be physically taxing when we go up a hill and you've got snow and ice to deal with, but generally speaking, it's not very difficult. As I said, we spend a lot of time with our ship transitioning from one landing site, one destination to another. Often we'll use 2 destinations in one day. And then sometimes we just throw our plans out the window because we see a group of a pod of whales, and we'll just divert with the ship and follow the whales. So we have incredible scenery and a beautiful day, and we decide instead of landing, let's spend the afternoon outside on deck and use the ship to explore. Or possibly we go through a narrow passage after dinner, or it's at 1 o'clock in the morning and the sun is setting and you've got this gorgeous pink light, and we just get everybody out on deck and we have champagne and hot chocolate out there, and the expedition staff pointing out interesting sights. Our ships are, as I said, small and maneuverable, and we really can get very close to the land. And as I mentioned before, our passionate and knowledgeable expedition team always around, always out on deck with our guests. Our expedition staff drive our Zodiacs. Every time that you're in a Zodiac, you will be with an educated, experienced expedition staff member. Every time that you go ashore, you will be with an expedition staff member to share their passion, to share their knowledge, so that you can learn and get as much from the experience as possible. Sometimes we do silly things like the polar plunge, and we just stop the ship and we drift in a calm, beautiful bay, and we put the side gear down, and we tether you with a rope to the ship, and you're allowed to jump in, into reasonably cold water, and we offer you a shot of vodka for your bravery. For those of you that are not so brave, you can sit out on deck while the others are doing that. And honestly, having a hamburger or a beautifully cooked lunch and a glass of red wine or white wine or whatever you wish, a glass of champagne out on deck while seeing this incredible scenery, it really is quite special. As I mentioned before, it's an educational program as well. We want to make sure that our guests learn as much as they want. It's not forced on anybody. It's not a university. It's not a school. There's no exam. But we want to make sure that our guests have access to the knowledge of our expedition team. And because of that, we've got a very in-depth lecture program. We've got beautifully appointed theaters, lecture theaters on our ships, and everything that we do there is broadcasted to the suite, so guests can watch these programs live in their suite, live in the lecture hall, or we record it, and guests can go back and watch these recordings at leisure. We make sure that our team are very well versed in the relevant topics regardless of where the ship is operating. You know, if it's in the Melanesia or Micronesia, Papua New Guinea area, we'll have anthropologists and ethnobotanists on board. In the polar regions, what we are talking about here, Antarctica, we make sure that we have an expert on glaciology, on marine biology, on history, you know, on polar exploration, to make sure that we cover all the topics and we make sure that our team have the relevant experience to deliver on that. And we have the team around the ship, you know, in the observation lounge, out on deck, during recaps and briefings. We also have, you know, multiple photographers on board. We've got a photography studio on Silver Cloud and Silver Wind where you can come and learn in a group class session environment how to take photos, how to edit those photos. You can also have private photography experiences where you can go with the photographer ashore on one-on-one, or even charter a Zodiac with the photographer and go out on a Zodiac program just with you and the photographer. We also have the opportunity to charter a Zodiac privately for our guests, with or without a photographer, of course, driven by one of our team members. But we do have such a large fleet of Zodiacs and expedition team that if you want to have a private experience, we have the opportunity to do so. We also offer kayaking on all three of our expedition programs, expedition ships, Cloud, Wind, and Explorer. And the kayaking, you have to have at least some kayaking experience. We've decided to operate with a smaller group. We take between 12 and 16 guests in these double kayaks. We provide all the gear necessary, and we have an incredibly skilled professional kayak team that look after the kayak program on board. And there are very few things in life that is as special as taking a kayak and kayaking in Antarctica, in and amongst the ice. It really is a very special experience. And of course, we spend a lot of time on our Zodiacs, and whether it is on a Zodiac cruise, you know, coming really up and close and personal with the wildlife together with our expedition staff, or whether we use our Zodiacs to take our guests ashore, these boats are really incredibly versatile. As I said, Zodiac landings, hikes, kayaking opportunities, you know, escorted walks, or in some cases walks where you get a bit of more freedom and roaming on your own. We like to give our guests choices, and Antarctica and that experience is about the variety, and it's pretty packed. You know, we go out and we do something minimum once a day, often 2 destinations, twice a day, different destinations, or something similar where we use the ship to cruise around. And it really is quite a spectacular experience. None of this would be possible without Zodiacs. We carry a large fleet of Zodiacs. These boats were designed by Jacques Cousteau. They are military grade. We built our Zodiacs either in Europe or in the USA, and they are military grade boats. They've got a flat bottom, and they really allow us to do everything. You know, it allows us to do things that with a regular boat with a V-shaped hull would not be possible. Our drivers are very skilled. We've got a very serious standard that our teams have to meet. We've got education and that we put in place, certification that we put in-house in place, and it really, our team are very, very skilled at maneuvering Zodiacs. As I said, every time that you go out on a Zodiac, you will be with an expedition staff member, whether that is a ride from ship to shore or a Zodiac tour. You always will be with an expedition staff member and a highly, highly qualified team. These boats allow us to go really close to the wildlife, you know, within our regulatory framework, within permitted distances. Sometimes the wildlife comes a bit closer to us than we are allowed to go to them, as you can see with this penguin that jumped on our Zodiac, named after Mawson, the Australian explorer. But, you know, without these boats, we just simply wouldn't be able to do what we do. We wouldn't be able to land on these incredible beaches where you come ashore just like a penguin coming out of the water you come ashore onto these beaches where there's this incredible amount of wildlife. Seeing the seals out on the ice floes, it really is quite spectacular. I often get asked, what is my personal highlights? I've spent so much time traveling around Antarctica, and I have to say there are two things that really stand out for me. I think Antarctica is such a personal journey. I have seen couples that have been together 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they're on the same ship, on the same trip. And at the end of the trip, when you speak to them and you ask them to recount their highlights or share their experience, you very quickly realize that, again, Antarctica proved that it's a very personal experience, and people experience it differently. No matter how often you go, it is always different. No matter how many days you spend there, you just cannot get tired of the scenery, of the wildlife. And for me, I always wanted to travel there, with my son, and he's now had the chance to go to Antarctica twice. I know he's only 6 years old. The first time he went, he was too young to go off the ship. But in 2019, just before everything came to a grinding halt, I was able to take Luke with me to Antarctica, and it was so incredible to see it through his eyes. And I was just reminded again on how personal of a journey it is, and how I wish that more people, it's one of these conundrums, because you wish that more people can experience it. On the other hand, you also wish that you could remain in such a small amount of people that can actually go to Antarctica. But what it really meant for me is that we need to preserve Antarctica. It just reminded me that, my 6-year-old son will be 26 when the Antarctic Treaty, when the protection of Antarctica, the treaty comes to an end. It's about 20 years from now that treaty ends, that international treaty. And we need to create ambassadors for every single person that goes to Antarctica. We need to be ambassadors for the preservation of this continent. We need to be advocates for in our countries, in our constituencies, to make sure that no government on this planet change the Antarctic Treaty, that they continue to support it, because it's only through this international collaboration, through our efforts to make sure that Antarctica is preserved, that we get to preserve it for the generations that come after us. And it's something that we all have to focus on. And once you've been to Antarctica, you really will understand how important it is. I also remember a few years ago, being on a Zodiac, and we were cruising around a beautiful bay called Nico Harbor, and we came across a group of humpback whales, and these humpback whales were very slowly cruising in the area and following our protocols, our internal protocols, as well as the IATO, the International Association for Antarctic Tour Operators, of who we are a member. We have wildlife viewing etiquette, and so we followed those protocols. We slowed down, we switched off our engines, and the whales just kept on playing around the boat. And at one stage, there was a mother and a calf that came right up to my Zodiac. And I remember taking this photo, and this mother just kept on nudging her calf to come closer to our Zodiac. And she was swimming under our boat and spy hopping and looking at us, and as if to show her child, saying, hey, look at these humans, look at these tourists coming to play in our home. And it really is incredible. That relationship that we have with that fragile relationship that we have with the natural world. Here you can see in Antarctica, in these instances, how it is possible for us to coexist, how it is possible for us through collaboration to protect this important part of our planet. And it is so important that we do that we, every single one of us, whether we travel to Antarctica or not, that we are advocates for environmentally sustainable travel, because through this sustainable travel, we are able to spread the word and are able to preserve these incredible places for future generations. We're an all-inclusive program. We have a wonderful relationship with the Royal Geographical Society of London. We do collaborate with them. A lot of our information, a lot of our onboard material is provided through this absolutely wonderful organization, and our expedition staff have access to the Royal Geographical Society for their research. We do have an all-inclusive program. We have a ultra-luxury program that allows us to have the highest quality expedition team. We've spoken a lot about that. All our programs include flights to and from South America in economy class. Our programs include one-night pre-cruise accommodation before you get on the ship, depending on the return flight schedule. We either provide our guests with a complimentary night after in a hotel or a day room. Of course, provide a very high quality technical parka for the use of our guests. All excursions are always included with Silversea, at a very high quality. And then, of course, the onboard hotel product is, an award-winning program that has really changed the landscape of cruising, ultra-luxury cruising, when Silversea started, and then we started Silversea Expeditions. It really changed the landscape of expedition travel and luxury expedition, because frankly, we were the first to introduce ultra-luxury cruising in the industry. We're incredibly successful with that. And then we were the first to introduce ultra-luxury expedition travel, and something that was laughed at and scoffed at, in 2007 when we started it. It's now becoming the industry norm. And I dare say that Silversea has a one-up in the sense that we've been doing this for a while. We also are very passionate about what we do, and it is something that we truly live and breathe every single day. We truly believe that we have an incredible responsibility on our shoulders, whether it is from a planning point of view or from an execution point of view. Operationally, we play with people's dreams, and that is a responsibility that we take very, very serious, and we cannot wait to welcome you on board one of our ships and hopefully be allowed to turn your dreams into wonderful memories. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I look forward to welcoming you on one of our Antarctica expeditions in the future. Thank you very much.
Right, Alex, that was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I never get tired to listen to Comrade taking me around the world, and in fabulous destination like Antarctica. So yeah, I was quite privileged as well to go to the Falklands, but I think you actually did a more fabulous trip on Silversea than I did. So yeah, it was fabulous. Alex, we can't hear you. Sorry. Oops.
Excuse me. So yeah, I was lucky enough to do the Antarctica Peninsula as well, and we've had a few questions on the chat box, but I wanted to. One of the things I wanted to share with you was one of my best experiences on my trip, and picking a highlight is difficult because they came thick and fast. But I have to say, on one particular day, we landed on a landing site called Paulet Island, which had a huge number of Adelie penguins, and we walked up the hill, and the ship's ornithologist was looking out to sea, and we went over and we asked her a few questions, and actually what she'd spotted was a leopard seal that was hunting. It was using some small icebergs as a bit of cover. It was hunting the seals that were coming in to feed their chicks, and so we immediately did a U-turn. That particular landing site, there was a few things to see. So actually the ship's guests had sort of spread out, and we walked back down the hill, and we walked to the beach, and we got a up close and personal view of the leopard seal hunting. In fact, we saw 4 or 5 penguins jump out of the surf almost at our feet, and then just a few yards away in the shallows, the leopard seal sort of reared its head as it missed that particular prey, although we saw it successfully hunt a few times, and it really was like something out of an Attenborough documentary. It was fantastic. So it's truly an amazing trip. And just to recap some of the questions, we had a question about dietary requirements, and obviously that they can be catered for. We also had a question about whether it would be a suitable trip for solo travelers, and actually on my trip it absolutely was. There was several different groups. There were small family groups. There were families with younger children, although they were in the minority. There were couples and there were solo travelers, and there's such a great atmosphere on board. Everyone feels like an explorer, and everyone is thrilled to be able to talk and share their experiences of the day, even when we've all seen exactly the same things. So it was an amazing atmosphere, and also just special mention from my trip to the expedition team, because they were just outstanding. Always around the ship, always on the landings, always available to ask questions, and hosting tables at lunch and at dinner as well. So it was fascinating to hear some of their stories and get some of their insights. There was one particular lecturer who'd done a few seasons in McMurdo Station, working on the logistics and finding out about how they did their science there was just fascinating, and learning about the human history of Antarctica as well, and the expeditions and Shackleton and Scott. I could go on, and I would love to. I won't today, but please, if you have any other questions, then don't hesitate to get in touch with us. I've travelled there. My colleague Sharon's travelled there quite recently. So please, we're happy to talk through our experiences, the options, and able to help you in any way that we can.
Absolutely. Yes, Alex, you mentioned Attenborough, and Peter Shanks, our managing director, often says, don't just watch Attenborough, be Attenborough, because this is what we can do. We are, as Silversea, as you know, we are fabulous at creating memories and, unforgettable experiences, really. And together with Mundy Cruising, we are the perfect fit to do exactly that. But it's been fascinating today. Again, for me, as I say, I never get tired to watch and to listen about Antarctica. Some good questions as well. If any of you want to add any more questions following this event, please do not hesitate to contact Alex and his team. They'll be happy to follow up with any further question that you may have. And we really thank you for taking the time today to take part in the event. We hope you enjoyed it, and we inspired you.
Just one question has just popped up about footwear. So a note about clothing. So footwear is provided. There are appropriate boots are on the ship. So you just request your size prior to, and that's all included. You're also given a complimentary Silversea parka, and that is fantastic. On a particularly cold day, it has to be very cold in the UK. That gets used still. But that with base layers is ideal. And then in terms of kind of trousers, if you've been skiing, a pair of Gore-Tex windproof, waterproof trousers will be fine. Obviously gloves, polarized sunglasses, suntan cream is important. Actually, we can send on a what to pack list, which we have on our website, which we can do as follow-up. So yeah, we will send that on, and actually we will send a little bit of follow-up after this meeting. And one of the things that we will include in that is our event incentive. So as a thank you for joining us, we'd like to offer you an event incentive, and details of that will be emailed across at the beginning of next week. So please do look out for that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us all today, and speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye now.